What do you think the biggest wealth killers are? It's one of your most popular topics.
Oh, yes. America's #1 wealth killer. The video that we did on that, the very first one, was on car loans.
Yeah.
And it's because of a trend that I kept seeing. As I wrote the book, I was comparing all the debt levels of a consumer debt in America. And we all know, we've heard the number, 1.7 trillion in student loans. There's a crisis out there. And then I looked up and I saw that car loans were meeting student loan debt. It was at 1.6 trillion when I wrote the book, and I was flabbergasted. How did we get here? Like, how did we go from a car as a necessity from A to B? Cars are, for a new car back in my day, it was like 25 grand was a brand new, that was a nice car. And now it's normal for someone to call into the show and say, I bought a car, we have $50,000 loan at 9% interest on this car, and it just blows my mind. And so I think having a car payment, keeping a car payment for your whole life, which is what most people do, is the #1 wealth killer. Because if you freed up that payment, you could invest that instead. You could save it and upgrade your cars in cash without ever paying someone interest while fully owning your car. And so breaking down the math of that was mind-blowing as far as wealth killers go. The other ones we can look at, by the numbers and go, okay, student loans are a wealth killer. Credit cards are now creeping up, 1.2 trillion in credit card debt. You guys don't want to talk about that because you're the responsible ones. You don't have credit card debt. But a lot of people struggling with this type of debt, crazy interest rates. The average is now 22% or more on these credit cards. And so the ankle biter ones that are sneakier are things like the buy now, pay later programs. A lot of the younger generations are saying, I don't want credit card debt. No, thank you. But I'll put all of my entire cart on Affirm and Afterpay, and I'll just figure it out later. And what happens is you just kind of add it to your tab, and at the end of the night, you go, oh my gosh, how I have a $300 payment to Afterpay for all this crap that I thought I needed. And most of it is just frivolous crap. It's clothing and entertainment and electronics and stuff we don't need. And so those are the major wealth killers I'm seeing with younger generations is the buy now, pay later. And across the board, car loans, I think, apply to almost every American. Most people don't think they can even buy a car in cash. They think they're going to die in a paid-for used car. That's the truth.
An interesting thing on the cars is I feel like cars also just haven't gotten a whole lot more reliable or better in the past 20 years. Sure, they've gotten safer. That's the main thing. I feel like that's a perk. But I was on r/buy it for life, which is a great Reddit thread and a subreddit. And I was looking through that, and a lot of the top posts are people driving Honda Civics from the 80s. And they're like, I bought this 40 years ago. It has 400,000 miles and it runs perfectly well. It runs perfectly. But I feel like nowadays, even if you buy new Toyotas, which Toyotas are pretty reliable, if you don't maintain them perfectly fine, they end up just having issues.
I still think people are choosing unreliable cars and then complaining about reliability. And there's also this fallacy of the paranoia of, well, I need to be in a safe, reliable car, so therefore it needs to be a $50,000 new car. And I dispel that myth in the book. I talk about how new cars can be unreliable. They can have issues. They can have recalls. The insurance is more expensive. They have fancier features they have to insure. And so, yeah, that's going to come with a higher price point versus buying something used, we're all Tesla guys now. I bought my Tesla in 2021 and it was a 2013. So at that point, it already had seen some things. It had 4 owners, it had 160 something thousand miles, and it was a gamble. It was a gamble I was willing to take. If this car imploded, I was like, all right, that hurt, but I'll move on with my life because the price point was so low. It was at, the MSRP on that thing was probably 80, 90 grand at the time in 2013.
Yeah.
And I bought it for 20 something grand. So I was willing to take the risk, and it's panned out. I still drive it. I'll probably drive it until it can't run any longer, which I don't know if you guys have done the research. How long can these electric cars go?
Tesla's
$500,000 or more?
Yeah.
And I'm at 190. So I'm just barely seeing the life of this thing. Other than battery degradation, which it's gone down 20% over the last 11 years now, I think it's going to keep riding on into the sunset. So I think people make excuses when it comes to the cars they buy and purchase, and you can buy a $12,000 Honda Accord, and it's a great vehicle that will last you a very long time if maintained well, and you don't have to go finance a $60,000 Kia Telluride because of safety features. I call BS on that. You're trying to look good, you want to flex, you want the fancy smell. Go get your car detailed for $200 and you'll feel like it's a new car.